Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming after work, after a long day, and showing up for your kids, really, and hopefully yourselves, too. This is, I think, my fourth time at St. Joe's over the last 15 years, and one of the things I wanted to say is that you have a community here. And you have counselors, teachers, support staff, coaches, clergy, etc. So to me, one of the great protective factors for kids and their mental health is to have a supportive community around them. So I think what I've seen over the years, because I've worked with your kids and with you as well, is that I'm very, very proud of what St. Joe's has put together here. So I think that this community really serves as a way to kind of support their mental health and their development in general, really. So as we said, yes, Jesse's going to be videotaping this, and he's not going to show any faces. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut things up and make a highlight reel for me on my YouTube channel. So that's what the purpose of that is. And let's see if there's anything else. Oh, the other thing is, I don't want to just sit here and rattle off slides and read them to you. And I want this to be interactive. So if you have questions at any time, feel free to raise your hand or shout or whatever you need to do if you have a question, okay? Or if you have some wisdom to share. Because the other thing is that let's also be very clear about something. The expert about your kid is you, are you? You are the experts about your kid. It's not me. I might know some things, yes, about teenagers and depression and working with their mental health, but fundamentally, you are the experts in the room. So I want us to work together as we go through these slides and use your wisdom, because the thing is, too, you might have a question that you think, I don't know that I want to answer that, ask that question. But more often than not in situations like this, the question you have is what 7 other people are thinking, too. So feel free to raise your hand and get involved. Okay, we got it? Are we strapped in? We ready? Okay, there's no bathroom breaks, by the way. So I hope that's already occurred. Okay. There are exits, though, I guess, in case of an emergency, and it's too much, but okay, so let's begin. And as someone said, yes, a little bit of the 80s right here with the boom box. I get it. I understand, but the 80s are now cool, so all right. So this is it, teen depression, what every parent should know. Right, catchy title. So let's begin. This is the way I think about adolescence. And I'm going to move around, so if I'm in your way, I'm sorry, I'll keep moving, so at some point I won't be. Yes?
Procedural question.
Sure.
Are you offended if we take a picture if we find something interesting?
I have no problem. I sent the final PowerPoint to John Gunty, who I'm assuming can make it available to you all. And if anybody, by the way, is involved in mental health or social services, feel free to just use elements of my slides, too. I mean, this is all in the public domain, so don't worry. So yeah, feel free. So this is how I think about adolescence, and I really mean it, actually. It is the most courageous and heroic time in the lifespan. I'm going to show you a very unfortunate slide in a few slides that looks at the causes of death for teenagers. Surviving through the adolescent years is a heroic struggle. So think about this. Think about all the forces that are coming together during the period of adolescence, which, by the way, is really about 12 to about 25. We're saying teens, right? But adolescence goes on and on and on. For me, it took me till I was 40. But the brain doesn't stop developing until about 25 in terms of the frontal lobe, thinking ahead, consequences. I'm going off on tangents. We're going to be here all night. So I think it's a courageous period of life. We start to see, and maybe we saw this when they were younger, We see their incredible potential and possibilities start to emerge through their particular interests. The brain starts to prune itself, and we start to get down to what our core strengths are. And so you start to see all these little emergent talents that they have. And through that, they start to figure out who they are as well. I mean, isn't that the old phrase, adolescence is the period of time to figure out who you are, right? But a lot of that is very, very true. What else? Bursts of energy and ambition. And we see that with the things that they're involved with. Think about those kids in Florida who unfortunately went through the mass shooting. Look at what those kids did. No matter what position of the whole gun thing you're on, look at what those kids did in terms of leading a national campaign about gun awareness. I mean, that's what teenagers, adolescents can do. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, think about this too. Think about all the advances. Facebook really started by a teenager, if you think about it, right? Zuckerberg was not, 50. He was a young guy. You think about all the kind of modern things that we have, much of that has been developed by an adolescent. And of course, their great sensitivity and social connection. And we're going to have a couple slides on social media. But they're starting to find their crew, starting to find, their clique, their group. And we do the same thing. We have our work friends, right? Church friends, whatever, We are social animals. And teens are starting to awaken to this as well. No longer, when they were children, you arranged their entire lives. You took them everywhere, arranged the play dates. Now they have autonomy to choose. Would anyone add any phrases to this, by the way? Any other thoughts about, yes, please.
I always thought of it as a little goes a long way. You give them a little and they take it really far.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yes, exactly. It's so true. I mean, just imagine Could you repeat that for us? A little goes a long way, right? You give them a little bit of an idea and they can just go off and run with it. And it's true. Imagine we had that kind of energy, right? Anybody else have any thoughts about adolescence as well? Yes, please, and speak up, yeah.
Aside from the changes that take place at birth and shortly thereafter, their physical changes,
Oh, yeah.
huge transformation during this time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's also, just to give you some detail too. Early developers, either girls or boys, always much, much harder for them. Because for our girls, when they start getting the curves early and all of that, the world looks at them differently, right? And certainly these days, we are hopefully much more sensitive to this. And our guys, you got a kid who's, 13 years old and 6 foot tall. The world expects things from him. They expect him to act like an adult. But he and she ain't. But yeah, I mean, the physical changes are incredible. I mean, they're vastly different than any other time in life. Yeah, I saw this man's hand, and then we'll go here, okay? Yes, there was somebody over here.
Spotlighting. So
Yeah.
I find that teenagers are really I don't want to say in negative terms. In negative terms, I guess it would be selfish.
Mhm.
But in positive terms, they are so involved in themselves and their development that it's hard for them sometimes to see from a different perspective. They
Yes.
have that sense of spotlighting, like everything
Yeah.
they do is being noticed and being responded to, and so that's something to be aware of.
Absolutely. Everywhere they go, they're evaluated, number one.
Well, that's true.
Right? So, and the self-centeredness actually, while it can be annoying, it can also be very useful. If I'm navigating a ship and I'm going through biological changes, social, brain changes, economic ones, family changes, I'm going to be really, really self-focused on where I'm going amidst the storms. So absolutely, you're absolutely right. And then there was somebody over here, yes.
I just wanted to point out too, we were talking about the physical changes.
Yeah.
It's different too, like when you're an athlete.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a child who's an athlete and their body's changing, and so maybe things aren't working the way they used to, so they have to accommodate for that change.
Yes,
physically
yes.
and mentally.
Right. And they're asked to do a lot as well, right, with that. And St. Joe's has quite a history of powerful athletics, you know, I've known throughout the years. Yes, John.
There's also beginning of some skepticism about a lot of the beliefs that have been that they've been taught
Yeah.
in their religious beliefs.
Yep.
And so there's a certain skepticism, but there's also a very deep well of spiritual insight and spiritual desire
Yeah.
and spiritual energy.
Yep.
It isn't really formed, and it's just beginning to emerge because they're coming out from the form of a lot of the beliefs that they've been taught.
Right. And it's and to me, it's healthy skepticism too, right? Because one has been controlled for a lot of years. And listen, we all went through this, by the way, or at least I did. Maybe you didn't. Questioning your parents and authority, et cetera, and concepts and the way the world works. And it's not like, well, I'm not going to get too political about anything, but certainly the world in general has a lot of flaws right now, right? So young people, I think, have a right to question all of that too. So I'm going to move on, okay? All right. Let's see what oh, there's a nice picture. Okay. There we go. So this is the cover of Time magazine a couple years ago, and you know if it's on the cover of Time, it must be a big issue. And inside of this has a bunch of stats, and I've pulled some of those to present to you later. But now we're going to do, who's that? Right. Why do I have him up there?
Because he is what, especially boys might see themselves as wanting to be.
Oh, that's brilliant. You know what? That's true. That I do think that's likely. Not the reason I have it up there, but go ahead.
I think he talks about his personal experience
Yeah.
with depression,
Yep.
obesity,
Yep.
single parent. No
There you go.
wife.
Boom. There you go. Right. Even The Rock. Who's that? Right. Why is she up there? Also, right, somebody who struggled with mental health issues. Who's that? Come on, the boss. Right? Big time struggles with depression. Who's this? Selena Gomez, right. All right, wasn't she like the most popular person on Twitter or something like that? Or yeah. Also somebody who struggled with depression and anxiety as well. And certainly when I was a teenager, it wasn't like celebrities were coming out with, you know, hey, I struggle with mental illness. You didn't really hear about that. And it's great that some of these celebrities are coming out and normalizing it. Anybody know about this show? Selena Gomez was a part of producing that. Does anybody have any immediate reactions to this show? Oh, go.
I just know from, when my daughter was senior, and they said don't let them watch that. So that's the only
Yeah.
thing.
So my daughter was a senior. Don't let them watch that.
Yeah.
So Netflix put on this series based on a book. It's been on 2 seasons. It chronicles the story of a young woman who commits suicide and leaves 13 cassettes behind, explaining what led up to her suicide. And I think it was an incredible portrayal of high school life and mental illness and sexual assault and drug abuse and very real issues that go on. At the same time, I hated this series because kids who were vulnerable to depression, self-harm, substance abuse, etc., also then went into tailspins after binge watching 4 episodes of this. So what we saw at my Kaiser job is we saw ER visits all went up. That corresponded with the time the first season came out. Now that's not research data, that's just That's just the way it went down. So there will be another season. And if you have a kid who is vulnerable in any emotional way, the way I recommend watching this is one at a time, not binging it, watching it with your kid, and having some time to talk about it afterwards. Because it's a lot to swallow if you're alone, isolated on your laptop, watching 4 episodes at a time. Okay. And who's this? Demi Lovato. And we know that unfortunately, well, she's someone who's struggled with mental health issues and substance abuse, and a couple months ago had a relapse, right, and an overdose. So, but she's been a great advocate of mental health. And once again, I'm not trying to bum you guys out with any of this, because the next one might, but it's just to give you a real, look at the impact. And then, of course, Robin Williams, who we lost a few years ago now, right? And there's a part of me that becomes a bit resentful that, oh, well, suicide and mental health only becomes a popular issue when a celebrity dies. That, like the Bourdain and Kate Spade, I think, and, But at the same time, at least it gets the conversation going. So I think that's useful. All right. So now I'm going to keep your brains active. I'm going to have a couple of these throughout. And I have gifts. I have prizes too, by the way, for anybody who gets these. And if you already know the answer, please hold off on it. So you'll notice how the brain works. A father and son are in a horrible car crash that kills the dad. The son is rushed to the hospital. Just as he's about to go under the knife, the surgeon says, "I can't operate. That boy is my son." Who is the surgeon? Yes. Bravo. Let's give her a round of applause. Very good. You get a pen. Because most people, some enlightened people in the Bay Area might say, it's the gay, co-parent dad, right? What did somebody else have, mother? Did you guys get it? Oh, good job. Well, you're St. Joe's. I mean, geez, you're going to get this stuff. But it's a typical thing that's presented to look at how the brain is biased in certain ways. So good job. All right, we will continue. Yeah, that's the female surgeon. Okay. All right. That's a depressed teen. So what's that say? What causes and contributes to depression? This is where I'm going to rely on you, and then I'll present slides with all the answers. So what causes and contributes to depression? Isolation, okay. Stress, I heard, yeah. Just shout it out, it's fine. Being overwhelmed. School. Negative self-image, social media, lack of sleep. Come on, you guys, geez, this side's killing you. They're killing you. You let them do that? Man, come on, somebody. Judgment, thank you. Guy in the back. Eating habits. What was this one? Expectations. I heard a male voice too. No? Oh, the hallucinations are back. Okay. Tumultuous relationships. Yeah, absolutely. So you guys got it. That was good. I expect more out of you guys this next time. That was not so good. Okay, so we'll just go through the standards here too, okay? So biology. You might just not have enough serotonin in the brain. That's a feel-good chemical.
You might also have too much serotonin in the brain, which is the new research coming out about anorexia nervosa.
Oh, yes, yeah, very good, very good. Why don't you come up here, man? Jeez, this guy's, and you're in the back row too. Oh, okay, man, okay. So you might just have a family history, so that's your genetic karma. Right? Substance abuse certainly can contribute to depression. And then there's all these medical issues. And the one that we're looking at a lot lately, sometimes when the typical antidepressants don't work in both adult and adolescent populations, you check their vitamin D, and oftentimes it's low. So you give a little vitamin D supplement, suddenly they're a lot better. I suggest that before you go to meds, of course. But check the vitamin D, check the iron. And I should have on here, oh, thyroid. You want to check thyroid too. Because if it's low, then you're going to look depressed. There's a lot of medical explanations, biological explanations. Environment. You have a history of abuse. And there's violence, right? Trauma, high stress, right? These are pretty obvious, I think. What else we got? And then there's life, by the way. So you might have lost a pet, right? There was a divorce, a romantic breakup. Maybe there was a move. One of the big contributors to adolescent depression, it was a powerful study. The number one thing was trauma. And then the second thing was a move during the high school years, which kind of makes sense, right? Particularly if you've been going to school with a bunch of kids, since elementary years, and then, sophomore year you move. That's going to disrupt you. So what are some of the consequences of it? So the actual kind of real-life pragmatic consequences. Let's do it this way. What is the number one cause of adult absenteeism in the workplace, in the world? Depression. It's the number one cause of missing work. So that's what I mean by kind of an actual consequence. So what would the corollary be for kids? They miss school, right? And if they miss school, what happens to their grades? And then the stress goes up. And then what happens in the family when they don't go to school and the grades go down and right? The conflict goes up. And all of that's understandable. So grades decline, okay, poor academic. What you also start seeing a little more screen dependence because they're not making it to school, so they start kind of diverting their energies toward the screens. And there's a pivotal study that was done, it was published, it was in 2017. I've got a real chunky slide with the findings. But it mentions, it's all about screen time and mental health. And then you get the increased family conflict. What else? You see a decline in hygiene too, right? Poor physical health, and you get then the co-occurring conditions that pop up. Because depression is really like an opportunistic infection. And it'll bring its friends with him, or whatever depression is, whatever gender. Yes? You can, yeah. But oftentimes, I'll tell you, this is anecdotal based on experience. I seldom see them uniquely different, or totally separate. They always kind of work with each other because the anxious kid who can't make it to school starts feeling badly about themselves, that they can't go to school and maintain, kind of the family's expectations and their own expectations, so they get depressed, So it goes kind of back and forth, but you can. I think I've seen that much more in the adult population, though, where you have more of a pure anxiety condition going on. Yeah, and anxiety's on the rise. We'll get to a fun statistic on that. And eating disorders, that's when John and I were talking, kind of this awareness of the development of eating disorders too, which fundamentally is an anxiety disorder in many ways. And then you see the substance abuse, by the way. Why do we see substance abuse emerging when a person's depressed?
They're trying to block out those feelings.
Boom, right. Self-medicate. We all self-medicate, by the way. For me, it can be chocolate and it can be Netflix. I won't tell you what it was 20 years ago, but we all have our different ways. It's a strong word, self-medicate. We all self-soothe in different ways. All right, what else we got? Okay, so here's just some of the numbers. I just feel yes?
I'm sorry. I wanted to ask a question about the sleep disturbances.
Yes,
So they say
brilliant.
kids supposed to have a certain amount of sleep, but do you believe that some people need more or less sleep than others?
I don't know.
Does that make sense to you?
It does.
So like some people need 8, but they're okay with
I have seen that with teenagers, but
Anxiety or just a natural biomedical?
I think that it is enormously infrequent for a kid to kind of to do well and thrive under 7. I mean, it's very hard for me to recall even somebody that I saw performing really, really well that was getting 7 and under. Yeah. And I got a whole thing on sleep too, by the way. And sleep is huge, yes.
What are the other consequences? Could be self-harm.
Ah, brilliant. Oh yeah, we're gonna get there too. Self-harm was another consequence, right? Yeah. Okay, so, here's some, so once again, I feel like I should tell you some of the numbers too. 1 out of 5 is gonna have a depressive episode before they reach adulthood. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically 1 or 2 out of you in every row. Boom. I mean, it's very real. I won't go over all of them, but 30% they develop a problem also with substances, and you answered that because they self-medicate, right? Which, when a kid comes in and they're smoking a lot of weed and all that, there's a part, and the parents upset, understandably. There's a part of me that totally understands too, I mean, when you're in the pits of depression, or you're going to be high, I mean, I kind of get that too. It's certainly not a long-term solution though, right? And actually over time, substance abuse turns against you, right? We all know this. Okay, here's a few more. Once again, I'm not going to go over all of them, maybe just the ones in red. Number 1 cause of teen suicide, untreated depression. So in many ways, you guys being here tonight is the beginning of you treating your kids' mental health, because you're getting some information. And then, second leading cause of death in teenagers.
What's the leading?
Ah, very good. Well, let's play with people a little bit. What do you guys think the number 1 is? Yeah. Yeah, unintentional injury, which is car accidents. Yep. And I have this slide too. It's going to come up with all the grid. That's very hard for you to see, but I just wanted to present it. What's the third leading cause? Overdose? It's not. What's the opposite of suicide? Homicide. That's number 3. Isn't that great? This is the way I think about it too. When I was rehearsing this, I wasn't going to go on as many tangents as I am, but it's 7:10. I think of the top 3 as related to the brain. You think about driving a car and getting in a car crash. And if you were anything like me, when you were 16 driving, I wanted to drive fast. And you drive fast and you have very little experience, you get in car wrecks. The second one, suicide. Person becomes overwhelmed with their feelings, they didn't get the help they needed, et cetera. They become overwhelmed, but the brain can't moderate the feeling and then the action. And then you look at homicide. More often than not, a person is not thinking fully when they kill somebody. Now, I understand it's the death is that you receive the homicide, but in that scenario, somebody's brain isn't working entirely well. So I often think of the top 3 as, gosh, if we had our brains developing faster and earlier, you might see those numbers much, much differently. Okay, is that all right? We'll go? Yep, okay. And then males complete it more often than girls because males use more violent methods. Sorry, I know these are not pleasant, but girls do it twice as frequently as males. And when I do a teen depression group every Monday at my Kaiser gig, and it's usually like, on last night, 12 girls, 1 boy. Because what are boys doing with their emotions? I think I heard they're getting in fights and they're aggressive, right? And they're stuffing it, right? Which leads to more aggression and violence, right? They act it out, right? Whereas girls internalize it much more. That's a generalization I'm making, but it's one that I've seen. So, all right. Oh, here's another riddle. And I have a gift for you, too, whoever gets it. So, what loses its head in the morning and gets it back at night? Anybody? Huh? That could probably suffice. Come on, I got a really cool pen that says, Shecky the Clown, bar mitzvahs, weddings. Don't forget Shecky's dog Arlene. A little extra, but worth it. No? Come on. Jeez. All right, I got to give it. Yes. Oh, excellent. Look at that. Yeah. This side of the room. All right. You're doing well. I'm excited, you guys. Yeah. You're going to get some free waters on the way out. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, the question was that, right? Oh, the answer was a pillow. Yeah. I just wanted to keep you engaged, that's all. I mean, enough statistics, after a while, it's a little too heavy. Okay, anxiety, it co-occurs with depression, all right? I've kind of been saying that. And what's the next slide? I forget. Okay, we're going to get into this. Once again, I know that the first thing they say about doing PowerPoints, don't put too much information on one, but there's so much information. 3 million teens aged 12 to 17 had at least one major depressive episode in the past year. Department of Health and Human Services. 2 million report experiencing depression that impairs daily functioning. Okay, so we get that. 30% of girls, 20% of boys. 6.3 million have had an anxiety disorder. Ooh. Child Mind Institute, which is in New York. By the way, if you ever want to get kind of arrives every 10 days, a nice little email. I know our email boxes are filled with stuff. But if you ever want one that has really good mental health tips from 0 to 18, sign up for the Child Mind Institute, that newsletter. It's very, very good. So what do they say? Yes, okay, we got this. They say, found that only about 20% of young people with a diagnosable anxiety disorder get treatment. So, and it's on the rise, anxiety. There's so much more anxiety coming into my Kaiser gig and my private practice. The pressures of life are so much more intense. Please, yes.
So is it because parents or the people around these kids are not picking up on the fact that the kids are not getting treatment because they don't recognize the anxiety in the kids and hiding it?
I think it's a very complicated answer. I think that we are all maxed out in our lives in everything that we do. I also think that the school day doesn't end at 3 o'clock anymore. It ends at midnight because of social media. So I think the pressure to be on overwhelms a young person. I think issues around economics in any home create stress in the family. And so I think it's it's our society in general, quite honestly. Take a look at, just think of it this way also. All of your kids, I mean, we're going to St. Joe's because we want a good academic environment, right? Good academics, good social support, community, some sports, some music, some theater. All those colleges that we want our kids to go to, what are the requirements to get in these days? Were they anything like they were with me, 3.85 and bad SATs, but class president, but you can't get into Cal State East Bay with something like that. I'm exaggerating that a bit, but. So even think about the systems for which they need to enter into and the expectations, 4.4, 4 AP classes. I couldn't have handled that. So I think it's so many things coming together. I think it's a perfect storm for mental health issues to emerge. So no, I don't think it's, and yes, are there clueless parents out there? Absolutely. And now nobody in this room is clueless because you're here, number one. But this is the clueless parent that I see. They got to just snap out of it. What's wrong with them? They got to get their stuff, they got to get their work done. I go to work all day long to kind of, and maybe they come from a traditional background, whatever that might be. Mental health was not a part of their upbringing, right? And then the kid suffers because the parent can't be supportive, right? So there's that. You were going to say something?
I was just going to comment on it to continue what she was saying. There once was a time where there was like a filter and buffer.
Yeah.
There was an etiquette that we
Yeah.
had all learned when we called our friend's house and we spoke to
Right.
the parent.
That's
and
brilliant.
asked permission to ask to
Yeah.
speak to our friend.
Yes.
With the cell phone now, they just have
Right.
direct access
Yep.
and constant access.
Yep.
I remember watching like one of my first episodes of Rescue 911, and I was so overwhelmed at like 10 emergency situations in less than 25 minutes. And our kids can see that all the time.
Yeah.
There are cell phones in their rooms, they have direct access to this. They're being exposed to things we don't even know about.
Yeah.
We don't filter it, we don't buffer it, it goes straight to them.
Yep.
That's, I think, contributes to their.
Absolutely. Right. It's trauma central. And you can get plenty of it just by looking at the news or looking at a feed or looking at the Twitter, et cetera. Right. But, and even if it's not at the level of trauma, how about if it's just drama? Just that. Oh gosh, everybody's at that party. Why didn't I? And I know that might sound kind of like not a big deal, but you remember what that was like? That's big time. We'll get to that slide too. But someone else had their hand? Yes. Oh. Oh.
Go ahead. I have a freshman who said the day's done at 12 because of social media.
Yeah,
I wish
often.
it was 12.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd catch him at 2 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Under the blanket.
Yeah. And in that case, and I got a thing, the cell phone should be on the kitchen table, powered down.
It was.
Okay.
I got up to pee and found it.
Oh, okay. Well, now we know.
I keep it in my bedroom.
There it is.
It goes in my bedroom when I'm sleeping and can't sleep. I mean, I'm out.
Well, we got to figure out. Well, then at some, and I'm not trying to be kind of harsh about this, but if that behavior persists, that person should not have a cell phone, or they should have a flip phone.
The new
Kind of that.
PS watches.
Yeah.
Nice,
Can we use this when he?
Oh, okay.
Does that? I can't hear you all in the back.
Okay, go for it, John. Yeah. You don't want to? What happened? Oh, come on. You got shy?
I think what's also happening though, we can say we can take away the cell phone, but Google
Yeah.
whatever they have to do their homework on. But
Yep.
I'm doing my homework, so you don't know if they're
You're
really
right.
doing their homework or if they're really on Snapchat or
Yep.
whatever else they have going on.
Absolutely right.
That self is hard to take away, so I completely understand.
Yep. And let's just be very, very real. You can't watch them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Period. But the thing is about that, the counter I would make to that is then if we're concerned about what they're doing online, on their laptop or whatever, the laptop and all work gets done at the kitchen table. Right? So at least that there's kind of the idea that you might walk around and you might see it. I get they can collapse. I swear to God, this was my 3 o'clock today. Meaning the patients I saw. It always collapses the window as soon as I walk in the room. So yes, sir.
The flip side of that, I
No.
don't expect them to have instant self-control as soon as they go away to college on their own.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
On the flip side, I don't expect them to have instant self-control
Yeah.
the first day they go to college on their
Absolutely.
own. So I'd rather they learn some self-control.
Absolutely.
I don't want to keep it from them entirely.
Gotcha. And so once again, if your kid can handle that, great. Right? Because there's all kinds of variation here in the room. Right? So one size doesn't fit all. So yeah, you're right. You were going to, I'm sorry, I think you were overlooked.
I was going to say that, really, do I have to, okay.
Yeah.
So I was just talking about the undiagnosed thing. So for my job, I had to do this youth mental health first
stage.
Oh, great.
Which was great, but it made me so paranoid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression in teenagers is also kind of normal teenage stuff.
Yeah.
And the moodiness
Yeah.
and the disrespect and all of that. So, I look at my son and I'm like, oh, he's got so much anxiety, which he does, and he's depressed, and and then I just kind of step back and say, am I putting this on him?
Yes, I
Because
see.
now I'm looking
Yeah.
very carefully.
Of course. Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, I don't know, does he need help? So I get, I'm confused.
Got it. Right. Right. Well, it's great that you have too much information than not enough. And the other thing, and I'm going to volunteer you at some level in your staff, maybe if you have a question, if you don't know, have them go visit John or one of the counseling staff, and maybe an impartial person that's easily accessible here at school can just interview them and talk to them about what's going on. The other thing is, don't be afraid to ask them. I mean, that sounds...
I mean, what's he gonna say?
Well, I mean,
He admits he's got anxiety. He's
Oh.
identified that.
okay.
But
So maybe he does.
yeah,
And maybe that's enough, But I get you. I mean, I'm throwing all these stats at you. It's going to freak you out a little bit, too. I get that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I also think that
Oh, I'm sorry. My eyes. That wasn't captured on film, hopefully. Oh, boy. I literally can't see you. I'm sorry. My eyes aren't. Oh, that's embarrassing.
I also think that it's addictive, the phone, and we see that as being adults.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes we just can't get away from looking at the phone. But I see that in my son.
Yeah.
And when I can kind of break that addiction, in the day, and just get the phone away from him and kind of get him to realize that it's almost this, it's like candy or something.
Yeah.
And he, and then he'll take a break, and
Yes.
that can work out. Often it doesn't, but
Yeah.
I find that interesting that it's so addictive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, let's also be very honest. It's not simply addictive for them. It's addictive for us, too. And the new drug of choice on this planet is a cell phone. And then I've got to move on, but go ahead, sir.
Just to mention the new Apple iOS.
Yes,
app
yes.
Called Screen
Right.
Time. And
Right.
it will allow you, if you have your children involved, if you have them set up as a family, not
Yep.
only will it record your own screen time, so you
Yeah.
can keep track of that, but you can have it shut off at 10,
Yeah.
start at 7.
Yep.
They can't do anything about it. And granted, we want to teach our kids how to consume this because they're going to be adults, they're going to need to do this. But, while we have them, some of that's just habit.
Yeah.
Breaking the habit,
Absolutely.
breaking the addiction because it's so easy to do that. So,
Right.
I would tell you to investigate screen time if
Yep.
you're concerned about it.
That's brilliant.
I just want to say this guy disguised as an audience member is our tech coordinator for St. Joseph.
Oh,
And
okay.
he's also a father of teenagers, so
Oh,
he
okay.
knows a lot about this. And I don't want to,
Yeah.
overwhelm you, Andy, but it's Andy McKee, and he knows a lot about this. And for those of you who are concerned about access to social media and
good.
screen time,
Good.
Andy's got some great ideas.
Perfect.
And maybe we could work together, the counseling department and Andy, to provide some suggestions for parents.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
He's a great resource, though, if you just want to.
Okay.
That's just for fun. I know well because I just locked my daughter out of her phone for like 3 days and I screwed up. So I learned
Sure.
that.
Brilliant. Good. Excellent. Thank you. So all emails go to Andy.
At 12 a.m.
Yes, please. Yeah, that's the best time. Nice, nice. Okay, cool. That's great. All right, okay, where are we at here? What's going on? Oh, okay. Well, just when we were having fun. Well, you can't see it. I can barely see it. All right. The rankings. The causes of death. I think I actually have to look at the laptop here to, yeah, because I can't. I'm sorry, you guys. Unintentional injury, that's in blue. 1 to 44-year-olds, the number one cause, right? The number 2 cause, suicide, in green. Look at that number, 10, all the way to 34. Why are we seeing 10, 11, 12, 13? I'm throwing it out as a question. Why do we think we're seeing it that young? Bullying, interesting. Yes, yes. Social media, sure.
Because they start having a lot more access to all things that we're not used to see before, I think.
They have access to things that we have not seen before, they have not seen before. And the other thought is that those little ones have ADHD and they have impulse control issues. So we're starting to see more in the ADHD early pediatric population. But isn't that a horrible thing to see? This is 2016 too, by the way. And then we see homicide. This is 15 to, what is that, 34. It's crazy, right? Homicide, the numbers are 5,000 in the one quadrant. They're both about 5,000 plus. Suicides in the 15 to 24-year-olds, 5,723. Right? Now, of course, we're all worried about, I mean, like for me, it's like, all right, I got to take the medicine for the cholesterol and the high sugars and all this. But for that population, it's suicide. So simply as a result of your age, you are at risk. That's kind of the other way of looking at that. So, sorry. All right, I don't know if there's much more to do there. All right, shake it off. All right, what are some of the signs and symptoms of depression? Some of you said it too. I mean, they were tired, withdrawn, yeah. Moodiness, right? Which is very similar to an average teenager, by the way, right? The way you really tell is when they stop talking to their friends, the grades drop, and they stop doing things that they used to love. You look at those three things, yeah, that's probably a little bit different than normal adolescence. Okay, so withdrawal, moodiness, what else? Feeling lonely. What else?
They can be in a room full of people, but they still feel lonely.
Alone in a crowd. What else? What are some of the signs and symptoms?
Eating disorder.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And a way to self-soothe is to eat, too, by the way. I'm probably the only one in the room who does that, by the way, I'm guessing. But so I'm gonna quit quizzing because I want to keep our motivation going here. So I'm just going to give you. All right, irritability, I think is, to me, it's like the big one to notice too. Poor attention, and we see poor attention, we see poor grades. Isolation is huge, more so than they already are as normal teenagers in their bedroom. Low self-esteem. Sorry, I got a lot on this one too. Self-harming, and the next slide's going to have some stuff on that. Just kind of a general negativity about things, the physical complaints. Like I said, lack of interest in things they used to enjoy. So they stop playing the sport. And they don't. And it's not because, well, I'm tired of you always, expecting me to play. And it's not that. It's that they just lose. They just lose the interest. All right. So self-harm, because I think that was mentioned somewhere here. So self-harm, also known as self-injury, also known as non-suicidal self-injury, mutilation, etc. So this is cutting usually, right? And the key thing here is that it usually happens without the intent to die. So often what happens when you discover this with your kid, because they've been wearing long sleeves forever, and then you find all of a sudden one day you kind of catch a peek, is you freak out. Which you should, by the way, let me be honest. But oftentimes, the cutting and all of that is a coping mechanism. Why would someone self-harm through cutting as a coping mechanism?
They don't feel anything.
Well, I heard some good ones. What was this one? They feel guilty? So it's like a self-punishment? Oh, that's nice, yes. I think that occurs in some cases.
I think sometimes they feel overwhelmed by their feelings and it's a way of releasing.
Boom, there you go. Overwhelmed by their feelings. So it's a way to kind of deal with that through physical pain. It's a pain you can control as well. Was there something over here?
Well,
Somebody?
it's just when depression, if they lose interest in so many things, just to be able to sense something.
Oh, brilliant. Right, to feel something, right, can be soothing. Yes?
Feel something else.
To feel something other than the depression. Absolutely. Brilliant. Yes. So once again, I mean, you know, I'm not suggesting that in some cases, certainly it can lead to more active suicidal behavior, but I've seen in the vast majority of kids who self-cut, it's not about killing themselves. It's about the things we just talked about. To me, it's very much like drug abuse because you're harming yourself, right? It can become addictive as well. You know that it's harming yourself, but you do it anyway, and you got to keep doing more and more of it, right? So then they go to different parts of the body. Okay. And so this is the why of self-harm. We talked about this, right? You answered it. Feel something physical when you're feeling numb. That was what was mentioned over here. It's a way to express emotions. It distracts you from the painful emotions. That was said too. And the other reason why it's similar to drug abuse is oftentimes it's not like a kid just on their own thinks, I'm going to cut myself. It's usually in the environment. So somebody else did it, so it's like somebody else hands you the joint. You know, there's this kind of social influence around it. It's one of the reasons, well, I shouldn't say it that way. Oftentimes, self-harm can quickly go away as soon as you get treatment, though. So it's a little easier to deal with sometimes than addiction. All right, so I'll move on, yeah? Is that okay? Okay. Ways to support a depressed teen. Well, number one, you're doing it right now. Take the talk of suicide seriously, of course. Acknowledge that they're suffering. I mean, this is kind of common stuff, but I felt like I should just have it up here. Don't criticize them, of course. You're so lazy. Come on, snap out of it, you know? That's the snap out of it. Don't I have that up here? Oh, somewhere. Express affection. You know, it's kind of like they have the emotional flu, right? When they're throwing up and on the toilet, it's not like you're going, get back, you know, get up, come on, what's wrong with you? Get your homework done. You're not saying that, right? Yes?
But how do you get the balance of, these are the expectations, you're not performing the expectations of doing your work without feeling like, oh, I can't say anything because it's going to make it worse, it's going to make it, you know, him depressed, it's going to make him more anxious. I mean, he always tells me you're just making it worse. But how do I, you know, but I can't just ignore it, the fact that he's not doing homework, you know, and not turning in assignments. How do you, I mean, I don't know how to balance that.
I think that you can say it with less frequency than you're probably doing it, and say it with more kindness. That's it.
Gee, it would be really great if you turned in your assignments. I mean, you know.
Well, I can go sarcastic if you want to go sarcastic. So no, I wouldn't say, oh, are you going to do, no, I wouldn't do that. No, I mean, no, I wouldn't do it. This is what I would say. Do you want me to actually show you?
Sarcasm, yeah.
Yeah, sarcasm is very unhelpful too, by the way. I can do it, you can't though. But I'd say, listen, I just want to be a good parent. I got to remind you, you got to get this stuff done, okay? And whatever you need, I'm here. Walk away.
Okay.
All right? 20 words.
I would like to add this.
Please.
Piece. Sometimes children, teenagers get sick.
Right.
We're talking about an
There's
illness
that.
here.
Yeah, perfect.
And sometimes they're having a hard time. Sometimes they're a little bit depressed. Sometimes they're a little bit anxious. And sometimes they're a lot depressed or a lot anxious. What we're talking about here is a student who is, there is a mental illness. They're seriously ill. And I like Michael's comment about if they're puking on the toilet, you don't, you treat that with compassion. They're ill, right? So, and there are ways to assess how significant this is. And all these signs are signs, but if they are there briefly and go away, okay. if they're there for a significant amount of time, then they're probably getting sick.
Yeah.
And the sooner the better in
Yeah.
terms of addressing it.
Yeah.
So when a kid is starting to really get sick, that's not the time to push at all.
Yeah.
And if you see it before they get to that point, all the better.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And I think that, listen, I mean, I think John and his staff, I mean, I think they're also good people to ask, how do I say this? As well. I think that we should utilize them. Yes?
I think sometimes parents have post-traumatic stress around
Yeah.
trying to encourage your kids to do school.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I think as a parent, sometimes for myself, I can have post-traumatic stress around trying to get my child to engage in schoolwork.
Yeah.
And that does not lead to compassion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so once again, I just to kind of understand something, there are kids who are struggling with a mental health issue that need to be parented in a particular way. And then there's kind of your average kid, right? Which I'm going to guess is the majority of people in the room. So some of the things we're suggesting is really for the kid who's having some vulnerabilities. So just to be clear. I'm realizing time, so once again, I put together way too many slides. And so I'm just going to fire through a bunch of this stuff, okay? Because I think most of it's pretty common, and you'll get the slides. Encourage the efforts your teen is making, right? Encourage healthy friendships, because you can't control the friendships, but you want to encourage being around positive people. Because there is something called emotional contagion. Model healthy behaviors, parents. This is the big thing. So you tell your kid, don't get high to deal with your depression, and you're coming home and having a couple cocktails every night. That's a problem, you might be able to handle it, but still, you lose any legitimacy you have. Participate in your kid's treatment. So this means, particularly at my Kaiser gig, not so much at my private, what people will do is, the car's running, kid goes off, parents go to Costco. Go up with your kid. Spend a few minutes with the therapist, checking in. Get support for yourself too, because as we know, depression can be genetically inherited as well. So maybe there's something going on with you as well, right? And that's okay. Okay. Preventing parent burnout, don't take it personally. Connect with others, and that's why I think getting together like this is nice. Monitor your own reaction, yes. Allow yourself to feel what you feel, because sometimes you do want to strangle them. And that's okay.
Can we do it?
No. Let me be very, very clear. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. The guy in the back row standing too, I don't know, yeah. No. Don't strangle your children. I think that's fair. I think that's, I could put that on a slide too, maybe at some point. Okay, let's just smile every once in a while versus when they come home and you already know they haven't done well in school and the frown and the judgmental look. And you all remember what your parents were like. Come on, Tap into your own empathy, touch base, notice the bright spots, and if you have to write those down on a piece of paper, do that. Because there's a lot more positive about your kid than negative, I'll tell you that. Practice simple acts of kindness, okay. Funny times, funny stories. Because it's tough being a parent. It's the hardest job you've ever had. Okay, another picture, okay. Ooh, I've got another, okay. What tastes better than it smells? Beer? Okay. Oh, perfect timing, by the way. Ice cream? Okay, that's true, yes. Whoa, this side of the room. This is how, what was the answer? Say it out loud.
Tongue.
The tongue tastes better than it smells. Come on, this is from Howie's House of Hair. Barely there to awesome hair in just 1 hour.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that's very special, very special. It's one of a kind. Okay. There it is. There's the answer. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to ask for a lot of participation just on this general question, because I think we know the pros and cons. But there's great pros. It's great for news sources and social activism. And does anybody know what the dodo is? It's really heartwarming little animal videos that I love. So it's great for that kind of stuff. But it's also, as we know, screen time, dependency, right? Sleep stuff, etc. Okay. Oh, God, what did I do? The cardinal rule of PowerPoint, don't do this. But this is great. This is the study to know about. 2017 study of 500,000 plus. That's a big sample size. 8th to 12th graders. The number exhibiting high levels of depressive symptoms increased by 33% between 2010 and 2015. All right? Record that in your memory. In the same period, the suicide rate for girls in that age group increased by 65%. Boom. So everything went up. Smartphones were introduced in 2007, and by 2015, 92% of teens and young adults owned one. The rise in depressive symptoms correlates with smartphone adoption during that period of time. It's correlative. It doesn't mean that's what it caused. It was caused by that, but it sure is an interesting coincidence, isn't it? Who knows what that is? Fear of missing out, right? It's like the new thing, right? But it's very real. It's very real. And once again, if you're getting these little reminders up until midnight of what you're not included in, how are you going to feel about yourself? Okay. Oh, okay. So this is just my thoughts about what to actually do. You got to check out your own use. All tech. Not the TV, but all tech, tablets, phones, laptops, desktops, all is off an hour before bedtime. Bedtime should be determined so that, 8.5 hours of sleep. 9 to 10 is recommended. But I know that your kids get up at 6 o'clock, 6:30, so they're probably going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. So that's 8 hours. All right. Desktop computers located in public areas, cell phones powered off, kitchen table by 9 o'clock, if this is an issue. If it's not, fine. Okay, flip phone. There's a whole campaign, too, called Wait Until 8th before they even get any kind of smartphone, which is kind of interesting, too. If you're concerned about cell phone usage, we're going to download a screen time app, which, as you heard, is already on the new iOS. But you could also get other screen time apps to monitor. And if you refuse to unlock your phone, we're just going to take your phone. Okay, this I thought was interesting. Well, I pay for your phone, then I'm going to follow you on social media. I'm going to act like I'm not there. But I'm going to know kind of what's going on with you. So you have to friend me or allow me to follow or whatever. Now, I know they make fake accounts. By the way, that's a new thing. New, I mean, in the last couple of years. Right? They've been doing it a while. And they can share with who they want to share with. And say all the crazy gossip about whoever they want to as well. But at least try this, right? That you should be able to see. Because the thing is that this is the other social milieu that they are in now. You should, as a parent, you have the right to supervise that. Okay, what works? Okay, here's the real meat of it. And this is for mood in general. And everybody in this room should be doing this. Oh, I have another riddle. Okay. What asks but never answers? Anybody? It's an animal. No? Yes, John Gunty. Very good, very good. You win. Stuffed with love taxidermy. No pet too small. Oh, I got another one too, I forgot. What can... Oh, this is for the real nice one. This is for the Dr. Michael Torres pen that somehow was, they send you stuff like this. So what's the answer? What can... Whoa, that's right. Was that you? Good job, look at that. Pretty exciting, huh? Okay. All right, I don't think I have any more of them, so. Okay, so good sleep hygiene is vital. And we already know 9 to 10 is recommended. They get 8.5, they're lucky. This is why they sleep in on Saturday and Sunday, because they're making up for it.
Is there such a thing as makeup sleep? No.
Is there such a thing as?
Makeup sleep.
I'm unaware of that, but they are underslept, and so I think they do enjoy being able to sleep a little bit longer. I think it's vital. I mean, we know this. Teenagers are designed to really be going to school at about 9:30. Okay, that's just the way it is. And isn't there a thing on the ballot about starting school at 8:30? There's something about that. Oh yeah, okay. But I know it's certainly a discussion that's going on in different states. So, okay, exercise. This is a great intervention. Healthy eating, duh. So that means get rid of the sugars, and then water over sugary drinks. Sleep. This is a guy at Berkeley. Single most effective thing you can do to reset your brain. When you sleep, your brain repairs itself. If you are underslept, you don't get the benefits of the sleep reparation. So, there's that. But usually we ignore this stuff, you know? And then we go back to the question this woman asked, you know, is it the parents that have caused this or whatever? It's this combination of so many things. Okay, yes, 9 to 10 hours, and they get, how much sleep do they really get during the weekdays? Yeah, depends on the homework, right. 6, 7. Anybody getting 9? No. No, not at all. The dog is, or the cat. The cat's definitely getting it, yeah. Right? Yeah, 25. Yeah, they sleep most of the day. Okay, socialize with healthy people, right? Have healthy things to do, but not overscheduled. Volunteering. And you guys have a community service thing, hours, right? That your kids are supposed to do?
Not specific hours, they're built in.
Oh, I thought that there was, oh, really? Oh, okay.
If they're in sports, they go and do community service with their team.
Oh, with their team? Well,
They're busy enough.
they're busy enough. I get it.
They're busy enough with sports and school.
Understood. Understood.
Because it's important for them to have compassion for
Yeah.
others and,
Service is a cure for self-pity.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
And we know that they're overscheduled. I get that. But I'll just throw this up. These are all the benefits of volunteering. And that's research back. So is that. So is that. So is that. This is, and this is too. These aren't necessarily, but I think they're pretty obvious. So volunteering doesn't necessarily mean you have to do something every week. It can mean, you know, the night before Thanksgiving, you work at a shelter. You know, it can be a one-time thing too. It doesn't have to be every week. So just a thought. Okay. Sunshine, vital. From the waist up, 15 minutes a day, ideally. Multivitamin every day, and vitamin B complex for energy and mood. And the thing about the multivitamin is that, of course, in your home, they're having a well-balanced meal. But in general, are they eating a well-balanced meals? Right? So the multivitamin, I think, is useful, so you just kind of they get all their vitamins. And that's gummy. They could do a gummy. That's no big deal. And then protein in the morning for breakfast. This doesn't have to mean, you know, this doesn't mean Eggs Benedict every morning. This could be a shake. It can be a bar. It could be a hard-boiled egg. Right? Because most of the time it's portable. Right? Because oftentimes kids don't eat breakfast because they're not hungry. Because they've gotten up a half an hour before they're supposed to leave the house. So the body is not yet fully awake to experience hunger. So that's why something portable often is the way to deal with that. And protein is important because you want it in the body to develop serotonin, which is Prozac. Serotonin is a feel-good neurotransmitter. You want that in the system in the morning. Okay? Okay. Journaling is good. Expressive arts, listening to music. That's like the number one thing when you ask the teenagers in the depression group I do. What do you do? What's your coping thing? Listen to music. Fine. Reading, pets, time with friends. Getting some education about it, therapy, and medication as a last resort. And the other thing, and I think this is accurate. Here at St. Joe's, you have the individual learning plans, right, John? Yeah. For some students. So if your kid is going through a real serious depression, then they can be put on this for a short period of time to give them a little extra help and support while they're going through this. It's not gonna, we're not gonna have this for the remainder of their high school career, but while they're getting treatment, they can get a break on some of this stuff. It's similar in the public schools to what they call a 504 plan, and maybe even an IEP at some level. People know what those terms are. Okay. All right. So we're almost at the end, you guys. So thank you for being patient. Here are some, because this is what I get. I'm often full in my practice, and so I get, people call me all the time, and I refer them to people. So I refer to my two good friends, Kelly and Carla. They're great with adolescents, and Rebecca is very good with adolescents as well. So once again, the slides are available to you somehow. And if you're looking for a psychiatrist for medication stuff, because that's always very hard to find because there's very few adolescent specialized psychiatrists. There's actually a shortage in the country. Community Psychiatry Associates on Broadway in Oakland. They have a great nurse practitioner who is able to prescribe medication. And then BACA is a woman, Sarah Huron. And listen, if you don't necessarily want to spend the money on therapy or what, you don't have it or whatever the case may be, Alameda Family Services is right here in town. And it's the county kind of mental health site, or it's one of the county mental health sites. Alameda Family Services has great therapy stuff too. Okay. A bunch of other websites. So once again, if you want the slides, this is some stuff on self-harm, and it has kind of interactive little worksheets you can do for coping. Calm Harm is a phone app. Well, we're trying to get them off their phones. I know, I recognize it's ironic, of course. But it's really cool. And crisis resources, they can always call that. Crisis text line. This is our kind of suicide hotline in Alameda County. So that if say it's 2 a.m. and your kid's, freaking out, and you can't get, I'm not available at that time, then you can go to one of these spots. And if you want some depression education, and by the way, I've gone through a lot of websites. I think these are the best. This is really good too if you got a kid who's going off to college. Lifeline. So there's some stuff there too. I'll let people finish the picture.
I think what I'll offer is the easiest way. I have this is my machine where we're projecting here.
Brilliant.
So if you just email me,
great,
I'll attach it in my reply.
Cool.
It's jgunty, just the letter J, Gunty,
great,
at sjnd.org.
Good.
jgunty at sjnd.org.
Good.
And it'll take me 5 seconds to reply. So
cool.
Just ask. We'll put it up on the web, but this is faster, and this you can do tomorrow before you forget.
Groovy.
Or tonight. You can do it right now.
Yeah.
It'll be there for me in the morning.
Right. And if you forget all that, just take one of my cards or go to my website, and I can get it to you too. Okay. And if you, I always hear this too. Is there a good book, that'll help me explain my kid? This is the one. Dan Siegel. He's the guy. Huh? Out loud? What?
They're reading The Teenage Brain in one of the classes.
Oh, good. Good.
My son told me to read it.
Oh, great. Great. Well, fine. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, he is the source material, and if he's telling you, so.
And we just did, this council just did a whole thing this week with the juniors on brain development.
Oh, brilliant.
And all that. So
Great.
They've just gotten that information, the juniors.
Good, good. Yeah, the brain is fascinating. Dopamine really runs most of it, by the way. But that's another talk, another time. So, brainstorm. Dan Siegel at UCLA. And I am not his nephew. So I'm. All right, so now, do people have questions? And, would you like us to shut off filming for those questions? How about we start with, are there any questions? All things were answered tonight. Wow. Yes, please.
Your child doesn't talk. You ask questions, yeah, everything's fine. And it seems like it is, but,
Yeah.
There's a new kid who comes into the class and we don't hear about it until 2 months later. He just doesn't say much.
I'm sorry, so are you an instructor here? Is that what you're saying, a new kid?
So my son, I ask him, so how was your day? I ask specific questions, things like that. Everything's fine. He just doesn't.
So this is going to sound really weird. Where do you ask him these questions?
At home.
At home. Try the car. Just try that, okay? And the other thing is, if it doesn't work with you, which is very common, don't take it personally and find somebody else who can do it. Yep. Coach, a coach, whatever, John, And listen, here's the other thing. And this is not a plug for me or any of my friends. I promise you. A one-time visit with someone like me is not such a bad idea. After all, we take them for a physical every year, right? And so listen, if you have Kaiser or whatever too, or your own insurance, use that. And maybe you have somebody do a session or two with them to check them out. There's also that too. So, yes, in the back, and then we'll go to you.
Since you work with Kaiser, does Kaiser offer any sort of communication tools for families or for teenage groups?
Yes, it does. Some of them do. I work in Union City, which is part of kind of the Hayward, San Leandro, that whole system. So ours does. So when we do our teen depression group, alongside of that we have a parenting class, which is really like a support group that's led by a psychologist and meets with the parents for 3 sessions. And it's part of your copay for the kid in the group. So that's kind of a nice deal. Plus, we also have parenting the difficult teenager, if you have a kid who is a handful, and that curriculum, I wrote it, and it's based on something called the Parent Project. So people know about that. So we also offer that too in Union City. Not every Kaiser does though. So I don't know if Oakland does.
Oakland goes a long way.
Yeah.
Just thinking like the lady over there, even if it's not serious depression, but it seems like it's an age when it's hard to get the communication flowing.
Yes. Yeah.
So any tools or ideas I think can be helpful.
One of the things.
Maybe an idea for resources for one of your slides next time.
Well, one of the things I would suggest you do, as I was saying here, is if it's not working with you, then find somebody else who can get through to your kid. But the other thing I would suggest to you is they simply may not tell you what's going on in their inner world. And at some point, you're going to have to, assuming there's no kind of obvious mental health issues, you're going to have to make peace with that. So the way to kind of then be with them is through experiences. And maybe that's the movies, maybe that's dinner, and maybe they don't necessarily want to go at first, but you make them go. Okay? So the experience and the time is the communication. Because otherwise the problem becomes, I'm trying to get through to you, I'm trying to get through to you, why won't you talk to me? And the more you do that, the more they're going to shut down. So sometimes experience is the best way to communicate. I wish, I'll tell you, I wish I had some magic, magical words too, but I just don't.
I certainly can say, like say movies I would not go see otherwise.
There you go. Movies is the best because they don't have to talk, right? Right. Right.
Playing cards or a game or something.
Right. Right. But I think movies is the greatest. Is one of the greatest ones actually. So there was something a little. This sir, yeah.
I guess it's a great segue because I'm just thinking about, I think like personally, and I think everybody in here is going through it also with their child. So just, tips and tricks on how, because traditionally, at least how I was raised, and I'm sure like many others in the room, driving kind of to, it definitely wasn't talked about openly in my household, and how to at least recognize and identify that there's something different, it's two worlds colliding, and I find myself now becoming my father.
Yes.
I desperately regretted, and it was not something I really enjoyed going through. And it's really hard to maybe we're not at the point where we're at these extremes, but you can see something there that has traditionally not been there. And how do we, just kind of what are those things that I think what you're talking about, resources are one thing, but also recognize within myself, I didn't have the right training or tools to do this with someone.
Yep.
And it's really hard not to feel like I'm pushing them more towards that direction as opposed to helping. So how do I get out of the way and also go through it myself?
Perfect. Yeah.
And that's really hard.
It's very hard.
And I find it really hard to even find the resources. Like I've been trying to at least explore what those might be.
Mm-hmm.
And getting people to call you back. There's probably not enough counselors to do it. This feels like an epidemic. It probably has been for many, many generations. We're just now more enlightened.
Yes.
And aware of it. So what is your advice with trying to engage with people like yourself or others to try to get our help for our kids? How do you get them to pay attention to you as opposed to all the million other calls I'm sure they're getting?
I don't know.
Okay.
But let me say this to you. Forgive yourself for becoming like your father. Because he is the greatest reference you have for how to be a parent. So forgive yourself for that habit pattern. Be open with your son that you're falling into that trap. Ask your son how you can parent him. Now, I understand that might turn into, well, I'd like to have $50 a week, and I'd like to, I'd like the Jaguar and all that. But I don't think that would be the case with your son. Because if your son is any measure of you, then your son is already going to do well. You could tell. Because you have a certain humility. So ask your son what he needs from you. What he needs from you? Yes. To be a good parent to him. How old is he?
16.
Perfect. I mean, if he was, you got 3? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Well, start with some Prozac, number 1.
The problem is that he's the experiment. He's the oldest, right? So he's,
Oh, yes.
So, not
Yes.
experiment, but in the sense of it's the first time I've ever had a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Right? So I haven't had the benefit of going through this with another one and learning from my missteps.
You know, one of the great things to say to your firstborn, if you have a quiet moment with them, is you tell them, you made me a father. Right? Boom. Say that to him sometime. And then walk away. But with you, the strength about you is that you have the capacity for intimacy. You could tell. So find a way to have intimate experiences and talks with your son. And even if that's just you saying, I'm really working hard at being a dad. I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't want to be like my father. Tell me what to do every once in a while. And leave it at that. 20 words or less. So
we're just about tight on time. It's a little bit after 8. You want to take one more, and then
Let's do one more.
We'll be around. Dr. Torres will be here. I'll be here.
Yeah.
After, but let's take one more question.
We'll do,
and
I
then
think,
close.
I think, was it, I can't,
Uno más?
take two. Oh, yes.
I think you will be seeing
Uh-huh.
a lot and hearing a lot more commercials on mental health.
Yeah.
That is a big push right now within Kaiser. So all
Yeah.
those commercials that you're hearing and seeing on television, you will be hearing and seeing more about mental health. It's called
Find your words. Yeah.
So be looking for that. There's also some programs that you were asking about. Employee assistance programs.
Yeah, very good.
Your employer, if you have employee assistance programs, that focuses on mental health, and they sometimes have 4 or 5 sessions that are
Yep.
included.
That's right.
By being an employee. You can just ask about it.
Yep.
It is always confidential.
Uh-huh.
So ask about that as well.
Very good.
But I wanted to let you know to be looking for those things, and there's a lot of resources on the Kaiser website about mental health. It's a big push within the organization.
Yep, very good. Very good. Yes, find your words. Absolutely. And by the way, half of us from Union City are going to move to San Leandro in next September. So I plan on being one of them to cut my commute because I live in town. So you won't only have just Oakland as the option too. So I think there was one more question here.
I was just going to add to your concern. Surviving, my oldest is 21 now and 4. And understand that the phase of they know it all goes well into, mid-20s. So you may not see
Right.
the reward, the fruit of your labor until many more
Yeah, that's
years
brilliant.
down the road. So don't take it
Brilliant.
personal.
That's brilliant. That is a brilliant statement. And I don't know about anybody in the room, but I went to UCLA undergraduate, and I know that, when I was buying groceries, I remember, right? And you're at, what do they have down there? Vaughn's. And whose voice did I hear when I'm going down the aisles? My mother's. Whose voice did now this is going to, I grew up, well, let me just say, my very traditional home, so the mom kind of did what the moms did. Okay, I'm sorry, but how did, what did I do when I had to wash clothes? When I had to iron stuff. You will come back to haunt them in their early 20s and when they're on their own. Because once again, who is their greatest reference for how to do stuff? We think during the adolescent years, it's often their peer group, but once they're out of the house, it's you. So keep that in mind too. We're running a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, thank you for your attention. This is how you can get a hold of me. And thank you for being a great audience. Good job. All right, cool. All right. Good, 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 good.